Independent retail business can mean so many things these days. A brick and mortar store, an e-commerce business, a maker's online shop, a booth at an antique mall, and more. No matter which category you're in, Kathy Cruz, a fellow retail business owner and retail educator, will teach you how to market and manage your business efficiently so you can spend time doing other things you love. Welcome to the Savvy Shopkeeper Podcast.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Savvy Shopkeeper Podcast. I'm excited to dive into today's episode because this topic is something I'm very passionate about. As retail business owners, we work so hard on our businesses. We're passionate about it. We have big dreams and goals, but we can get so caught up in wearing all the hats and doing all the things that we can avoid one of the most important aspects of our business, and that's the numbers. I don't want this episode to scare you. I promise it won't be full of math and formulas, although we will talk about that a little bit at the end. The intent of this episode is to motivate you to not neglect the numbers in your business. So today we're going to answer this question. How much do I need to make in annual sales in order to pay myself? Or at least that's the first part of the question. This topic might sound like it's for someone who's just starting their business, or maybe even someone trying to work on their business plan and they haven't opened up their business yet. But even if you're years into your business, it doesn't matter. We're going to answer this question today. One thing I know is women retail business owners want to pay themselves, but most of them don't. So at what point do you stop investing in your business and start paying yourself? How much do you pay yourself? How can you afford to pay yourself? All questions I hear all the time. My opinion is you start paying yourself from day one. I recommend this because if you don't start compensating yourself for your time, it is really easy to put this off, particularly for women, because women want to take care of everything and everyone else first. Doesn't this sound familiar? You feel like you need to reinvest. You need to pay employees. You need a new piece of equipment. You need to pay a subcontractor. We all know the needs, and this can lead to neglect. And what we're neglecting is compensating ourselves. My recommendation is more about creating a healthy habit around compensating yourself, even if it's just 1% of your gross sales. Don't get me wrong, you definitely need to reinvest in your business, but who says you have to reinvest everything? In December of 2018, I wrote a blog post about why we should start paying ourselves. I'll be sure to link it in the show notes, but it's titled 5 Reasons You Should Start Paying Yourself Now, and I'll just summarize it here. The first one is really obvious. You work hard and you deserve it. The second one is paying yourself is an incentive. And the best example that I can give is I found with my own sister that once we set a goal and we met it, we worked even harder to figure out how to increase that goal. The third reason is tax advantages. I am not a tax or financial expert. You'll hear me say that a few times in this episode, but I do recommend working with a tax accountant to determine if there are any potential tax benefits to paying yourself. The fourth is it's a good habit. If you're paying yourself, then this means you're most likely looking at your numbers, and this is always a good idea in business. And the fifth one is it actually takes you off the hamster wheel. If you are telling yourself that you will give yourself a salary once you hit X goal, or if or when this happens, you may never actually start. It's so easy to keep pushing that off, and I want to get you off that wheel. You've probably heard this before, but keep it in mind because it's true. If your end goal isn't profit and it isn't about paying yourself, then what you have is a hobby and not a business. So let's start with the question I think we all need to ask ourselves. How much do I need to make in yearly sales in order to pay myself? I know the math and the numbers and the formulas and the equations and all that stuff can really scare some shopkeepers. I know that because I hear it. Some of you even hate it, like truly hate the math part of this, of owning a business. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. I can't say it enough. Whether you do your own bookkeeping or you hire an accountant, it's really up to you. I actually do our own. I just recommend that you or someone else more qualified than you do the bookkeeping every single month. Depending on a shopkeeper's business model, the percentage of sales that will go towards what you pay yourself will vary. And how you determine it, it could be based on your profit and loss statement, who knows what other factors an accountant might use, and hopefully some advice from an accountant. And maybe it's not a percentage, it could be a set amount that you're paying yourself every month. But for today's episode, I'm going to use percentages. And what do I mean by this? Okay, so we all have cost of goods. We know we all have operating expenses, right? So here's a really simple example. A more experienced retailer could spend 50% on their cost of goods, 25% on their operating expenses, and they could pay themselves 25%. Now, it isn't always this crisp and clean, trust me. I know it's not, but I'm just trying to keep it simple in today's episode. But to give you another example, because I handle the bookkeeping for the home decor boutique I own with my sister, I am self-taught in bookkeeping and just a general kind of numbers geek, and I enjoy math. I know it's weird, but it's true. But I knew early on that we would be bootstrapping our business. We were going to be paying cash, we weren't incurring any debt, and we weren't taking on any loans. So I chose to start paying ourselves a small monthly amount or percentage. And it's been a while, so I can't remember exactly what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was probably like 3 to 5% of our sales for that month. I made this decision so we can continue to reinvest in our business. And as we grew, so did our percentage in pay. But I want to share this experience so that you know you can start small. So we spent 50%, let's say we spent 50% on cost of goods, 25% on operating expenses, and then most likely 22% on reinvesting in our business. And then that last 3% is what we paid ourselves. But that was years ago, and that gradually increased over time. So again, I just want to stress to you that you can start small. There's nothing that says you have to pay yourself 20% of your monthly sales. There are 2 practices that I don't recommend, 2 practices of paying yourself that I don't recommend. The first one is when you pay yourself at random times and in random amounts. You know who you are, and I'll give an example of this. You wait until the end of the month and you see that there's extra funds in the account, so you use it to pay a personal bill. I'm happy to hear you're paying yourself, but this means you really aren't looking at your numbers on a consistent basis, and you're only paying yourself what you think you can pay yourself. The other practice is waiting until the end of the year when your accountant tells you if you can take a draw. And again, this isn't necessarily a bad move, but I believe consistently paying yourself means you're consistently keeping up with the bookkeeping. And this means, yes, I'll say it again, you're consistently looking at your numbers. All right, I think I'm beating a dead horse here, so I'm moving on. For over 65 years, Darice has been a premier distributor of arts and crafts. Since its beginning, Darice has prided itself on being focused on the independent retailer. Let them be both your DIY source and your resource. Their website features trend reports, small business tools, in-store project ideas, and so much more. To best serve small businesses, Darice offers a low minimum order of just $75, and all orders ship at no additional cost. This is why I'm proud to partner with them and I buy from them. I'm excited to tell you Darice has an exclusive offer just for Savvy Shopkeeper listeners. Use promo code SAVVY25 at checkout for 25% off your order. Offer valid through 12/31/19. So visit Darice.com today, that's DARICE.com, to see their amazing product assortment at pricing you won't believe. So on to the intention of this episode. Recently, I ran a poll in the Savvy Shopkeepers Facebook group, and that's the free group I have in Facebook. And I asked what members want to make in terms of a yearly salary. I explained that this number would be enough to contribute to the household, pay the bills, and live life without incurring any new debt. Now, I know this number is relative, and every person's situation is different. But on average, The goal was $50,000. And coincidentally, based on a Small Business Trends article in 2018, I'll also link that in the show notes, the median salary for a retail store owner is $55,000. So since $50,000 is a nice round number, that's what I'm going to work with in today's episode. Sound good? All right, so let me add my disclaimer again. I'm not a financial expert and I'm not an accountant. And what you pay yourself could be referred to as an owner's draw. It could be a salary. You could even be on payroll, your own payroll. Either way, this is something that you should discuss with your accountant unless you're already knowledgeable on the subject matter. I also want to give out a shout out to Sarah of Studio How To, who was an accountant prior to being a retail business owner, and she helped me talk through this episode and she helped me prepare, so I really appreciate it. Now that we worked that all out, we're back to the question. I think this is the third time I'm repeating it, but I'm adding the $50,000 to it. How much do I need to sell in 1 year in order to pay myself $50,000? And again, this is just today's example. So I'm going to use two scenarios. I'm going to use the shopkeeper who pays themselves 10% of gross sales, and I'm going to use the scenario where a shopkeeper pays themselves 25% of gross sales. For the moment, I'm going to completely skip the formula. So don't worry so much about how I get to these answers, but think about what I'm telling you instead. So in the first scenario, the shopkeeper that pays themselves 10% of gross sales, that shopkeeper, if they want to pay themselves $50,000 for a year, they will need $500,000 in annual sales. Yes, $500,000 in annual sales for a store owner who wants to pay themselves $50,000 a year if the 10% of their gross sales is what's getting contributed to their salary. In the second scenario, for the shopkeeper who pays themselves 25% of gross sales, that shopkeeper needs to make $250,000, $250,000 in sales in order to pay themselves $50,000 a year. For some of you, you may be hitting these annual sales goals. Hitting $250,000 or $500,000 has been easy. You're in a great foot traffic area. It's fantastic. You're living your dream. I totally applaud you. I think it's amazing and fantastic and all the good things. But there will be hundreds of people that listen to this episode, obviously retailers, that this number or these numbers terrify them. And this is completely eye-opening. And I will honestly say, I wish this is something someone would have taught me and my sister when we started our journey. As retail business owners, we often get caught up in being creative or living out our dreams, and we don't think about reality. I don't want to scare you here, I promise. I don't want you to feel discouraged. I really just want to educate you. So in reality, if you're the shopkeeper that's paying yourself 10% of gross sales, that right now might actually only mean you're paying yourself $15,000 or whatever the amount is. But now that you know what you need to sell in order to hit your $50,000 salary goal, the plan is to start working towards your goal. So don't feel defeated. Don't feel it's impossible, because it's not. It just might take some time. It's going to take some strategy and it's going to take some learning. I know many of you listening are wondering, how can you even begin to pay yourself when you have nothing left at the end of the month after you pay for everything else in your business? So one of my goals with future episodes of this podcast is to teach you how to start making progress. I'm going to talk about what you should be looking at, where you can start making changes, and most importantly, how to be profitable. This will take time and it won't happen overnight, but I have many episodes ahead, and although the topics will vary, I will slowly chip away at this particular topic because no one, except for me and maybe a few others, would want to listen to back-to-back episodes filled with math and equations. But if you stay with me on this journey, I promise I will help your business. One of the first tips I'll give you to reach your goal is the less you're paying for goods and the less you're paying in operating expenses, the more you can pay yourself and profit. So this is, again, a future episode, but that's my first tip for you is find a way to pay less for your goods, whether it's materials for the items that you're making or whether it's merchandise that you're buying from a vendor to resell. That's one thing you can definitely do. And the other thing that you can do is to start cutting your expenses. You'll be surprised at what you can cut or what you can negotiate if you just sit down and really get critical about your expenses. So, are you ready to answer this actual question for you, the question that I keep asking in this episode? If you are, I am going to give you the formula next. So if you're pretty good with numbers and you're just like, all right, Kathy, give me the formula so that I can just figure it out based on my own personal numbers. If you hate formulas, I'm going to say fast forward 30 seconds. But here's the formula. You're going to take your annual salary goal, which in today's example is $50,000. Divide that by the percentage of sales you will pay yourself. And in today's example, it was either 10 or 25%. And then you take that number and multiply it by 100. I'll repeat that one more time. You're going to take your annual salary goal, divide that by the percentage of sales that you're going to pay yourself, and multiply that number by 100. So, if you're a visual person like me, I've created a tool to help you. If you sign up for the free Members Hub area of the Shopkeepers Academy, you'll find the formula written out there and a calculator. It's just a plug-in calculator. It couldn't be easier. I promise you, it's very easy. You'll literally plug in your two numbers, your salary goal and the percentage of sales that will go towards your pay. And that's it. The calculator will tell you how much you'll need to sell in a year in order to hit your salary goal. The intention of this episode was to open your eyes to how much you will need to sell in your business in order to reach an income goal. Plain and simple. I, more than anyone, want you to hit that goal. But the only way you can do that is to educate yourself and then move forward. Don't move back. Don't become afraid. Don't be terrified at what I just explained in this episode. Let's figure out how we can move you forward. And let's figure out how we can get you closer to that goal. If you have questions or feedback about this episode, you can DM me on Instagram. My username is @SavvyShopkeeper. If you're wondering where you can find a link to the free resources library or the article I mentioned, the Shopkeepers Academy, pretty much anything I referenced in this episode, you can find links to all of these in the show notes at savvyshopkeeper.com/episode 2. That's savvyshopkeeper.com/episode 2. Thank you so much for listening. And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe. Unless you hated the formula today, don't tell me that. And leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. I would really appreciate it. So until the next episode, be savvy and boss up.
If you want to feel more connected to humanity and a little less alone, listen to Beautiful Anonymous. Each week, I take a phone call from one random anonymous human being. There's over 400 episodes in our back catalog. You get to feel connected to all these different people all over the world. Recent episodes include one where a lady survived a murder attempt by her own son. But then the week before that, we just talked about Star Trek. It can be anything. It's unpredictable. It's raw. It's real. Get Beautiful Anonymous wherever you listen to podcasts.